View from the South Stands here, coming to you Sunday afternoon slash evening after the 3-0 shellacking that Toronto FC took at home last night at BMO Field versus DC United. Oh, not a lot of positives to take from last night's drubbing. There were a couple on the field and a number of positive things I saw in the stands as well that I'll get to a little bit later. But first, I think the question that I want to ask you, the viewers, is do you feel that TFC is really as bad a club as that result actually showed last night? I'm going to put a poll up on the blog that I'd like you guys to take a look at this week and vote on. And feel free to post any comments as well after you've had a chance to view what I'm about to say. And let me know if you think the TFC really is truly as bad, representatively speaking, as that result was last night. I think on a night when nothing went right, I still think in a lot of ways, I personally believe anyway, that it's still a little too early to tell what we've got here when it comes to Toronto FC. And I'll get to that a little later as well. First off, some of the things that really concerned me last night. First off, tactics. And again, I'm not an X's and O's guy, far from it. I'm a very John Q. Public soccer fan. I'm not really into the minutia of the formations and the X's and O's more than the average fan would be. But I can tell you right now that starting Jacob Peterson at right back last night was an absolutely huge mistake on the part of Coach Vinter and Coach de Klerk. Literally a few minutes in, Jacob was taken to school, spun around by Pontius, and bang, within a few minutes of the game, we're down 1-0. And that slow start, which was representative of that early goal given up to DC United last night, I think is one of the few real trends that have come to light in the first 6 games that Toronto FC has played this season. Every single game, whether it be Vancouver, whether it be Chivas, whether it be of course DC United, whether it be even Los Angeles, where I think it took a wonder save from Stephen Fry to keep LA off the board 38 seconds in last week as well. I think that on the field anyway has been one of the major trends. One of the other trends I think as well was the fact that the midfield simply couldn't control the ball at all. The on the ground, on the turf, passing it around, getting it up to the forwards sort of style that Coach Vinter wants the team to play was, in my eyes, so easily countered last night by the 4-4-2 that DC United were playing, with an increased body, of course, in the midfield, and increased pressure that they were actually putting on the TFC midfielders when they got the ball. Only some glimpses from Julian de Guzman and from Oscar Cordon, who I'll get to in a moment as well, showed any glimmer of any positive intent from the TFC midfield yesterday, which again goes back to Jacob Peterson. Peterson, to his credit, and I think to the surprise of a lot of TFC fans, has been one of the, frankly, one of the positive surprises this season. And again, being played at right back meant that your best crosser with the ball wasn't really able to do anything of any significance getting the ball up top to the strikers last night. And speaking of the strikers, Martinez, Stefanovic, and Maicon Santos were, to a man, absolutely non-existent. Stefanovic, again, I'll give a bit of a mulligan to, considering that literally minutes after Maicon was subbed, in I think the 65th minute, Stefanovic picked up a knock. It looked like his knee or his ankle, I'm not sure which, but he was literally hobbling around the field for the last 25 minutes because there were no other substitutions left. So I'm willing to give him a bit of a mulligan. But Maicon, the captain of the team, getting subbed at the 65th minute, I think really spoke to what was happening. Alan Gordon, I think would have been missed against Los Angeles. I don't think he would have been missed last night against DC United, considering that the midfield managed to get absolutely nothing of quality to the strikers up top. The only highlights for me in the TFC performance were Julian de Guzman playing the full 90. Again, his game shape is getting better and better. I saw some glimpses of decent play from him last night. So again, hopefully he's one of the linchpins that this club can sort of stabilize and hopefully build something around as we move forward into the season. Oscar Cordon, who's only 17 years of age, if you can believe it, is looking more and more at home as well. Whether it was a morale thing or whether it was an honest assessment, I don't really know. I'm thinking probably a little of both, but he was given the TFC player of the match at the end of the game Saturday night, and considering how bad everybody was overall, I've really got no problems with that. Oh, Charlie Davies. What a douche. I'm sorry, but I had to call it the way I see it. For a man who's been through what he's been through, for those of you that don't know, Charlie Davies was a very promising, and I'm sure he probably is still promising, young American striker who was playing overseas, was in the United States, back I think temporarily, got in a horrible car crash that saw a passenger in the car killed, him almost killed, out of the World Cup for the United States and South Africa last year with some horrible life-threatening / career-threatening injuries. And all of this was under some dubious circumstances as well. You would think that a guy like that, who's been playing relatively well since he's come back from injury and playing for DC United, would be a little more classy than he was last night. I think he's an arrogant douche, and he's really climbed up on the list of my most hated MLS opponents right now. Smoke bomb. In 112 and the Flares in 127. One of the things, which I'll get to in a second as well, one of the things I really found interesting last night was how the supporters culture at this team really sort of rose above all of the negative crap that we saw on the field. It was a rainy, nasty, cold, miserable night in Toronto yesterday. Luckily the rain held off, but it was nasty, damp, and cold down by that lake. I'm wearing like 7 layers of clothes. And I wasn't the only one, believe me. We're down 3-0. The team is just completely crapping the bed on the field. And what's happening? But the supporters in the northwest section of the stadium and in the southeast stadium section of the stadium, the red patch, the U sector, and the north end, the lead guys are literally jumping our heads off, singing, chanting, yelling, making noise, and really celebrating the experience and celebrating the club in spite of the horrible result on the field last night. And I think that speaks a lot to the character of and the maturity, or the maturing nature, I should say, of what I think is a really positive supporters culture in this town. Late in the game, somebody, and I know this person technically wasn't quote-unquote affiliated, is what I've been told, with the Red Patch Boys, lit off a smoke bomb in section 112. Obviously it created a lot of smoke and a lot of atmosphere, and it really got the crowd jumping. The team is not really cool with pyrotechnics in the stands, and then about literally a minute or two after that smoke bomb went off, a number of flares went off in section 127. Again, I don't know if they were with affiliated or unaffiliated people, and again, it's not for me to cast aspersions on anybody, but what I will say is this. TFC is against that sort of thing. I've written about it in the blog consistently last year about how I feel it's something that properly managed and properly controlled, and again, there's debates about how to do that. I think it adds a lot of atmosphere and excitement to the experience if done in the right, manageable, safe manner. Whether last night fit that bill, I don't know. But what I will say is I wasn't really too impressed with the double standard. I've learned subsequently to the game Saturday night that 5 entire rows of section 127 were cleaned out by the before the game was over by Metro Police and by Toronto FC / BMO Field security staff. Guilty or not guilty, responsible or not responsible, everybody was tarred with the same brush, and everybody was kicked out before the game was over. Whether there's going to be any further sanctions, I don't know. But considering that nothing happened to individuals or the section of people that lit off a smoke bomb in section 120, in section 112 last night, before the flares were even lit, I question treating one group differently than the other. Again, that would be something that TFC can probably comment upon. But again, I really think that that's something that TFC fans should definitely be aware of. The two final things I'd like to very quickly talk about today would be the fact that there was a march last night as well, which I thought was fabulous. All of the supporters groups, the North End Elite, the Red Patch Boys, and the U Sector, in their hundreds en masse, marched to the stadium, yelling, screaming, chanting, and making a whole lot of noise last night. And that definitely, in spite of the result, left a real indelible mark with me. It was a real fun thing to be part of, and I hope that that's something that continues as we go into the season. Now, what I said off the beginning in my little game day notes here is TFC that bad? A lot of people will say yes. Maybe some people will say no. I will say that I'm reserving judgment. I think that a true test will be what TFC does against Columbus at home on this Saturday afternoon coming. Columbus is again a team that a lot of TFC fans absolutely love to hate. I know DC United is climbing that list pretty highly, but I think Columbus still is the team that we love to despise the most here in Toronto for a lot of reasons that'll go without saying. I think it's obviously well known to everybody. They have not been playing as well as a DC has been playing or a Los Angeles has been playing. So there's 3 points on the board for Toronto FC. There's going to be a really raucous fan atmosphere, again, because of the nature of the opponent. It's going to be an afternoon game versus an evening game. And I really think that if Toronto FC has the kind of result this coming Saturday that they had against DC United this past Saturday, I think then I'm going to probably make my assessment on what we've got here, which is a pretty thin team with a lot of holes, some prospects and some possibilities, but a team with a team that's too thin. It's got too many holes to really seriously compete for anything substantial this year. I wish I was wrong, and I hope I'm wrong. And I think the way that the result in the Columbus result here goes down next Saturday is going to tell us a lot of that. So a better result, and the jury is still out. I think even then we're still going to have to see what's happening. The transfer window is closed now. Are there going to be more players coming in? Players that are out of contract? I don't know. I think the team is still grossly thin up top. I still think that the tactics are not working in the midfield. We're going to have to see what this new right back Eckersley that they brought in from Burnley in the English Championship is going to actually provide, and if there's going to be finally some stability in the fullback / center back positions. So there's a lot of question marks still to actually answer over the next little while. But I think we're going to be a lot closer to knowing truly what sort of a club we've got after the hated Columbus crew come to town next Saturday. I'll be there. And of course, I'll have my video blog up after the Columbus game on the weekend as well. You folks have a wonderful week, and we'll talk to you soon. Cheers.